This is VOA Africa.
Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Tuesday, March 31st. This is Africa 54. Due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, Voice of America is taking every necessary precaution to safeguard its employees. So our broadcast will look a little different today and in the near future as we, out of an abundance of caution, reduce our staffing at VOA headquarters here in Washington. We're working to help keep you informed about what's going on, and we appreciate your staying with us on Africa 54. Now, the United States has reached a grim milestone. The total deaths across America from the coronavirus has now topped 3,000, including at least 540 on Monday. And the reported overall cases of COVID-19 have now climbed to more than 16,000, according to the latest count from Reuters. People across New York City cheered as a massive 1,000-bed U.S. Navy ship cruised into port in the nation's largest city. The vessel is seen as a positive sign as the city battles with the onslaught of patients suffering from the virus. Now to Africa, where Tanzanian Health Ministry officials are confirming its first coronavirus death of a 49-year-old man who had pre-existing conditions. Tanzania is reporting at least 19 cases of COVID-19. Botswana has recorded its first 3 cases of the coronavirus, according to Health Minister Lemogang Kwape. Kwape says the people who tested positive are now in quarantine and had recently traveled to Britain and Thailand. And in South Africa, police say a law enforcement officer and a security guard shot and killed a man who attacked police while resisting arrest on Sunday, south of Johannesburg. The man had been drinking in a tavern in defiance of the COVID-19 lockdown. In West Africa, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari's announcement imposing a 14-day lockdown on sub-Saharan Africa's largest city triggered a last-minute rush Monday as people hurried to stock up on food and other supplies. Colette Luke has the details.
Omolara Adojokun and her family live in a slum in one of Nigeria's biggest cities, Lagos, and also the epicenter of the nation's coronavirus outbreak. She and her husband and their 3 children live in a 1-story compound shared with about 20 other families, each with 1 room. All the residents share 1 toilet and bathroom. Adojokun is an evangelist, and her family is living off her donations from preaching after her husband stopped getting paid.
So it's not easy at all. And we have 3 kids. And we still have our grandma that is living with us. So it's not easy at all because the money to use to buy it, even we don't have it now.
On Monday, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari announced that he was imposing a 14-day lockdown that included some of the country's biggest cities like Lagos and Abuja. With the lockdown beginning Monday night, people hurried to stock up on food and other supplies.
Everything is expensive. Rice, beans, cassava grain, and palm oil are all expensive. Even onions. Only God can help us.
Lagos, which is home to at least 20 million people, has more than 110 confirmed coronavirus cases so far. It's not the disease that has sparked people's worries about survival, but not having enough food and water to get by. The Nigerian president's order to ban movement for 2 weeks has left people confused about whether they can leave their homes for food or medicine. And some businesses, like drinking water vendors, were also not sure if they could operate. Adojokun is simply praying that the government will find her something to eat.
That was Colette Luke of Reuters reporting. Senegal's leading graffiti artists are deploying their craft to raise awareness about the coronavirus. Edward Barron reports.
In Senegal's seaside capital, Dakar, graffiti is everywhere. But a new set of murals have been appearing, showing someone sneezing into their elbow, a man wearing a surgical mask, and hands being washed. They're the work of an artist collective called RBS Crew, who are deploying their craft to raise awareness about coronavirus. The disease's swift spread across the country led the government this week to declare a state of emergency and impose a dusk to dawn curfew. The head of the collective, who goes by the name Mad Zoo, says graffiti can help reach the large part of the population that's illiterate. Senegal has one of the highest levels of infection in West Africa, with 105 confirmed cases so far. Experts say a larger outbreak could strain already scarce health resources.
That was Edward Barron of Reuters reporting. Just a few weeks ago in Madrid, thousands of demonstrators participated in a women's march, defiant or unaware of calls for social distancing to stop what then appeared to be the distant threat of COVID-19. Spain is one of the biggest battlegrounds in the global war against the deadly pandemic. Alfonso Beato reports from Barcelona, and VOA's Steve Reddish narrates his report.
Spain's health system is stressed to the breaking point. Coronavirus information hotlines have been jammed by frightened people desperate for information. Madrid's city leaders launched a web and mobile service modeled after ones that South Korea successfully used to track those infected.
Our sole objective at this time is to save lives.
The Corona Madrid website and the app is a public-private initiative that involves giving citizens personal information to the government and to various companies whose names are not disclosed. In these times of fear, few ask questions.
We are immersed in a state of extreme urgency or extreme need. That is when at least we begin to understand these rather awkward actions of various public administrations when developing technological solutions. The application of the Community of Madrid does not specify data protection clauses or transfers to third parties, and it seems this data can be transferred to companies.
South Korea's tracking measures help the government there flatten the contagion curve, and other countries have followed. Israel has approved its use of counterterrorism technology to track the virus, and Iran's official coronavirus app was recently pulled by Google amid privacy concerns.
Medical data is classified as highly sensitive. The transfer to third parties of medical data is being left in the background, when what is prioritized is the fact of having a lower number of deaths.
The coronavirus pandemic has made many people across the world feel afraid, helpless, and desperate for solutions. It has also raised new questions about how much of their personal freedom and privacy they are willing to sacrifice. For Alfonso Beato in Barcelona, I'm Steve Reddish, VOA News.
Amid the COVID-19 pandemic, Asian markets traded mostly higher Tuesday as investors cheered good news about China's factory output. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index was up slightly, while the index in Shanghai traded just over 0.1%. South Korean markets posted gains near 1% in late afternoon trading. Japan's Nikkei and Australia's S&P ASX traded in negative territory, erasing their early morning gains. Meanwhile, China announced early Tuesday that its official manufacturing purchasing managers index was 52 in March, rebounding from a record low of just under 36 in February. Investors were also cheered by Monday's surge on Wall Street, with the Dow Jones, S&P 500, and the Nasdaq all earning well over 3%. With tens of millions of Americans restricted to their homes by the coronavirus, charities that give food to the poor are struggling to meet increased demand from people out of work. Michael Sullivan reports on how one of the nation's largest food banks is coping with the need.
Distribution efforts are up at the Los Angeles Regional Food Bank, the nerve center for hundreds of small charities that operate neighborhood food pantries and meal programs. It was already experiencing rising demand in 2019 in an area coping with homelessness and soaring rents.
That was continuing into January and February. And as far as March is concerned, we've really moved into sort of a new world now.
With the economy at a near standstill, direct food distribution programs have expanded, breaking weekly records.
700 families showing up, 800, 950 families showing up.
And more recently, into the thousands. That's because many families have lost their income and most workers are staying at home because of orders by governors and mayors. The effects are far-reaching. In normal times, food banks can send help to other needy regions.
This pandemic is affecting all 50 states. It's affecting virtually all of our food banks.
But food banks are still trying to share information.
Silicon Valley, parts of the Bay Area got hit a little bit earlier than we did. So, getting on the phone with them has been very helpful to help us prepare and try to be proactive.
On the downside, across the United States, some neighborhood food pantries have closed.
Mostly because they are run by older individuals that are now sheltering in place. So food banks have had to make up for those closures in those communities by trying to schedule mobile distributions and the like to still continue to serve those communities.
What has made matters worse, food donations are down as well. Food banks are filling the gap by buying needed items on the open market. These charities say the distribution system is strained but still intact, at least for now. Mike O'Sullivan, VOA News, Los Angeles.
Fortitude Ranch, a survival community operating out of two separate compounds, one in West Virginia and another in Colorado, is equipped to survive a catastrophic event that could wipe out a significant amount of population as well as a long-term loss of law and order. As COVID-19 grips the world, the subscribers to the ranch have increased exponentially. VOA's Penelope Pulu interviewed the general manager of the community, Dr. Drew Miller.
The survival community of Fortitude Ranch is operating out of two locations. One is in rural Colorado, the other in West Virginia. Drew Miller, the general manager of the ranch, says for a $1,000 subscription per person, members and their families can get permanent shelter inside the wall perimeter of the compound and have access to stockpiles of food and other supplies in the event of a societal meltdown.
Fortitude Ranch was formed because it's very hard to do that on your own.
Miller says in a doomsday scenario, people are going to run out of food and water in urban and suburban areas.
You can't run water systems in a city without electric pumps. There's no water supply. Imagine living in a city or suburb where there's no electric grid functioning and there's no water now flowing.
The compounds are built near national forests where there are rivers for water and fishing and game to hunt. Inside, residents can grow vegetables and raise livestock. How long they can hold out?
We guarantee our members that we've got enough supplies and ability to operate for at least a year. But again, we can go beyond that.
They also have large stockpiles of ammunition.
Over time, marauding groups, gangs, other people are going to form up, go out stealing food and potentially killing people. You need guns, you need ammo, and then you need to have a lot of guards on duty, especially at night.
He says in times of peace and order, the compound operates as a vacation ranch where visitors hunt, fish, and hike. But during trying times, all the members will take turns performing duties in guarding the compound perimeter, cooking, taking care of the sick.
We have a clinic where our doctors and nurses are assigned.
However, there are skeptics who believe that no survival camp has unlimited resources to keep people alive and safe indefinitely in a doomsday scenario.
Could be people in there that start to take the stuff or hoard the stuff or take more than their share. And when things get low, fights can break out. The leaders have the weapons. Other people might bring in weapons or have their own.
Colonel Miller says with the outbreak of COVID-19, the requests for subscriptions to the ranch have soared. He believes this is not the highly lethal virus that will lead to societal collapse. But he says COVID-19 is a wake-up call to impending deadly pandemics, bioterrorism, or nuclear disaster that could wreak havoc globally and have people scrambling for shelter. Penelope Pulu, VOA News.
We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, Kenyan herders struggle to survive as climate change continues to wreak havoc in their semi-arid region. We'll be back. Welcome back to Africa 54. As the coronavirus continues to disrupt people's lives in ways both big and small, many are seeking greater spiritual nourishment. Religious institutions are heeding that call by connecting their congregations in a number of creative ways. VOA's Julie Tabo has more.
Houses of worship across the U.S. are adapting to the reality of COVID-19. Some are open to worshipers under stricter guidelines, while others have closed. So religious leaders are coming up with creative ways to stay connected with their congregations. Pastor Kendrick Curry calls his approach the ministry of presence.
That ministry of presence includes us being present by conference call. It includes by other social media such as Facebook Live or Twitter.
But the pastor says he and his wife Karen are focusing on their personal connections as well.
We're working with efforts that coordinate seniors getting food. We're working with efforts that coordinate to make sure that kids remain educated during the time that they're out of school.
One of the things that we're doing and we encourage people to do is to use your artistic gifts as you have them to reach people at this time.
Stop in the name of peace. Those with more share more and care more for those with the least.
Curry has written a poem called Stop, Time Out, which she's shared on her Facebook page.
Stop in the name of love. Those aren't the words of Ms. Ross, but an arresting word from the boss.
I was inspired to write a poem that challenges and encourages us to stop, look, and listen at what really is going on in our lives individually and collectively.
The Lord be with you, with your spirit.
At such a critical time, while some religious groups are streaming their services online, others are taking them outdoors.
We figured there's no better place to meet than the National Mall to declare the kingdom of God is at hand.
To be out here and to bring his presence with us to this capital is just tremendous. And I think it's a great place for others to gather and to see what's going on in our lives.
Pastor Curry also sees the coronavirus pandemic as an opportunity to reassess one's life.
One of the things that we have to be mindful of is not only the social aspects and the human touch that we have to have. This is a time and a season for nurturing the spirit. Perhaps we need to just slow down, take time to breathe, start to appreciate all of the things that are a beauty in the earth, instead of just being in a hurried sort of way.
The power of faith to see a silver lining in trying times. Julie Tabo, VOA News, Washington.
Exercise is critical to many people's physical and mental well-being. But how do you stay fit in the era of COVID-19? It isn't easy. Michelle Quinn reports on how she is getting a little workout in while trying to abide by California's shelter-in-place rules.
I live in Oakland, California, where we've been sheltering in place more than a week.
We're permitted to go outside and exercise with others as long as we keep a 6 feet of distance between ourselves and that other person. I run with my dog and my friend who has a dog as well. Last weekend, a whole bunch of people went out to the parks and playgrounds and beaches, and the authorities had to shut it all down. People either wouldn't or couldn't keep that 6 feet of distance. There's a lot of public shaming happening on social media. People reporting each other, teenagers walking too closely together, men are playing basketball, a runner came by and spit. Just the other day, a woman shouted out at me when I was running by with my friend to say that we were doing it right. What she meant was that we were keeping that 6 feet of distance between ourselves. And we knew we were because our leashes are about 4.5, 5 feet long. We think about that 6 feet of distance all the time. Biking is permitted, but you're not supposed to bike into another county, presumably because if something happens, you're now that county's problem. Biking is probably the most dangerous thing I do. If I got into an accident, I would probably go to an emergency room and then be exposed to the virus there. So I'm trying to rethink biking. Like a lot of people, I'm trying out online exercise classes. My gym instructor is teaching muscle toning and Zumba over Zoom, the video chat software program. I'm terrible at Zumba. I don't know how to dance hip hop, salsa, samba, tango, or anything else. But I am inspired to keep moving. I can see all the other people in their chat windows, moving their bodies, flailing their arms like me in the wrong moments. It doesn't matter. We are all here together, getting a little exercise and being safe. Michelle Quinn, VOA News.
Now, climate change is driving gender-based violence among rural communities in Africa's breakaway region of Somaliland, according to the charity Oxfam. In times of increasing drought, women travel far and wide to find water and other needs, raising the risk of sexual violence. Similarly, men unable to support their families too often take out their frustration on their family. Neha Wadekar visited the region of Sul, Somaliland, with Oxfam and has our report.
35-year-old Fatima, who for privacy did not want to use her family name, says their family lost all their livestock to drought. After moving with her husband and children closer to town to find work, Fatima's husband abandoned her and filed for divorce, but not before assaulting her.
He did harm me physically 3 times. He hit me a few times, and one time he told me that he would hang me, and he threatened me with a rope.
Fatima now lives in a camp for displaced people on the outskirts of Hargeisa, the capital of Somaliland. She supports her children through a small tea shop, earning about $40 per month, barely enough to feed themselves. Oxfam Gender Protection Coordinator in Somaliland, Abdul Rashid Youssef, says women displaced by climate change, like Fatima, are at high risk for sexual and gender-based violence, SGBV.
The risks that include in that when women end up in the workforce place or in the IDP camps, the risks include they are more exposed on SGBV issues like rape and sexual exploitation is on that. They are more exposed about they had limited knowledge about to cope the situation.
On the outskirts of the town of Oog, Ibado Mohammed Abdullah is working to prevent violence against displaced women. She oversees 3 displacement camps. To improve women's safety in the camp, Abdullah created women's associations, provides counseling for those assaulted, and takes criminal cases to the authorities.
If a girl who was raped would come to me, I would take her to the hospital. After she is treated, I would then immediately take her to the nearest police station to arrest the perpetrator of this crime.
Women in the camps take precautions. They travel in groups to collect firewood and water and make sure one woman keeps watch while the others sleep. But as climate change intensifies in the region, the number of displaced women at risk of violence will only get worse. Neha Wadekar for VOA News, Sul Region, Somaliland.
For nearly a decade, Herders in Kenya's arid northwest have depended on cash payments from the government to withstand a cycle of recurring severe droughts and floods. But as David Lomuria reports from Lodwar, Kenya, herders say the payments don't always arrive on time and acknowledge that climate change is making it harder for them to maintain their livelihood.
Philip Lopili has been herding sheep and goats for more than 60 years in Kenya's dry northwest Turkana County. Droughts last year, followed by heavy floods this year, killed thousands of animals in the region. Lopili, who says he lost 114 animals in the last year, says Turkana's climate has changed for the worse.
The years have changed. They are not like the old days. It used to rain after every 6 months, but nowadays it goes longer. This is a record. There were others, but small. This is a different record. It's the first time I have seen it.
Herder Ruth Akiru says it's not just animals that are suffering.
When the trees dry up, they start dying. You could even find 2 goats dead at once. They lack food to eat, and it becomes even harder for human beings.
Kenya in 2012 introduced cash payments to help herders affected by extreme weather from global warming. But people in Turkana say the grants don't always come on schedule.
We received it in September. They skipped October, and then we received it in November. That's how we used to receive it. But in the last 3 months, we have not received for 2 months.
Kenya's National Droughts Management Authority says they lack funding to help all the herders when they need it.
We know what we are doing, we know where we are going, but because of resources, scarcity of resources, we are a bit slow in achieving what we wanted to achieve. So resources is a big problem.
Meanwhile, herders like Akiru and Lopili can only wait for more support and hope for less extreme weather. Right now, it's the beginning of the dry season in northwest Kenya, and there is more sun in the forecast. David Lomuria for VOA News, Lodwar, Kenya.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.